people don't want us to be us. They kind of just want us to be like pushed to the side, but we need to be celebrated. Like, it's our time.
What's your story? What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life.
My name is Haley. I am a Cree Filipino being, now residing in Ottawa, but for most of my life I was living in Alberta, Calgary. I miss it now because, like, before I left, I started meeting a bunch of like more queer and two-spirited beings, and then I just left and I was like, oh crap.
It must be really different in Ottawa, so I can't wait to hear all about that move and how things are going. I hope they're going well.
Oh, 100%. They're going so great.
I'd love to hear some of your coming out story.
Oh my gosh, yes, of course. Okay, well, it wasn't like a huge coming out story for me because I basically just like posted on Twitter like something about me liking girls and like wanting to date girls. And then I remember my mom seeing it and she showed me, she's like, is this a joke? And I was like, nope. Like, luckily, you know, I had a really supportive friend group. We were like part of the PVA program in Calgary, so the Performing Visual Arts. And, you know, I just kind of told them, I was like, hey, like, I think I do like girls. Like, I always felt kind of weird with them, but I think it's because I like them. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, we figured. I was like, oh.
Isn't it funny how that works out?
I'm like, oh, it wasn't some secret. I thought it was like a huge secret to me, but everyone already basically knew.
That's so funny and really similar to me. Like, I thought it was a big deal when I was coming out to people, but the amount of people that clocked it and just called it long before I did was like, where was my fun with it?
Yes, exactly. It was great, but the only person that kind of was iffy about it was my adoptive mom. Like, I told her and she kind of was like, I think you're just going through a phase. Like, I think you're a little confused right now. You don't know what you want. You know, you kind of change your mind all the time. So she's like, I'll just wait and let's see from there. And like, our relationship from there, it was kind of like me always trying to validate that I was bisexual to her, and her just trying to be like, no, I think that's a phase. And it was really tough, and it was for like the first 4 years of me coming out. And, you know, I've always dated straight cis men all the time, so obviously there too she was like,
Slay.
right? She's like, I don't see it. I don't see you as a bisexual being. She started accepting it more because also when I started reconnecting to my Cree roots, I started discovering the term two-spirit, and I realized that, oh my gosh, like, that totally describes me. You know, I'm very masc and very femme, but I don't feel one or the other. Like, I feel like I am all. That's just who I am. And then, you know, my mom started seeing it and she started asking questions like, what's two-spirit? Like, what does queer mean? Like, what does this all mean to you? And then she finally just accepted. She's like, okay, like, this is who you are. You're not gonna change. This is you, and I'm just gonna love you for who you are.
That's so beautiful that your mother was able to get there, though. Like, I just feel so happy for you in hearing that, because I feel like that's such a process of learning for everybody, and the fact that your mom could just get to that point of supporting you, like, that's all you can ask for.
It was such a huge turnaround for me, especially because, like, we had like also a rocky relationship with me. I was kind of going through like a really rough patch in my life. I was an addict, I was an alcoholic, and, you know, she wasn't really connecting with me. And for a while there, like, we were very like estranged. We had like no relationship. And then when we came back, it was just like, I accept you for who you are, and yeah.
One thing that really stood out to me, even before like we started talking about an interview and stuff and just following each other on TikTok, is that you're also mixed, right? And you're also half Filipino, which I find is so rare. You can tell me if this resonates or not, but I feel like I almost had to come into so much of knowing about my cultural identity and my ethnic identity when I was older, like, even with the term two-spirit, as you kind of came into an awareness of what that was. Did you find that like it really was just in tandem with reclaiming all these other parts of you that you maybe didn't know that much about?
Oh, 100%, yeah. It was just me trying to reclaim back my identity, especially because like I am a mixed being and I'm also adopted. So I was raised by a white German lady, and I completely felt so out of place. I didn't know that there was anything like wrong with me. I was like, oh, I'm kind of just like a white person. Like that's who I am. And people would be like, but you aren't. Like, oh?
For me, it was kind of the opposite, where I grew up in a really white, like small town, rural Alberta community, but we were always like kind of told that we weren't Filipino enough and we were just subsumed by our whiteness, if that makes sense.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But at the same time, things would still just happen to us that would not have happened at all if we were fully white. Like if the world was trying to tell me at that time.
Oh, yes, exactly. I totally agree. It's like people will always try to be like, oh, you're not this enough, you're not that enough. And you're like, I don't know how I can be enough to you. Like,
right? And like, I just kind of feel this connection through the screen, which I feel like happens with anybody that's mixed and you just start talking about it in the first 5 minutes of meeting each other. It's just experiences that you can only understand if you've lived it.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Yeah, it's like we got our own little community of like mixed beings, and like what we go through is completely different.
That sense of community, right? Like when you talk about a community of mixed beings, it's something that I deeply like desire and want in my life. Like this Queer in Alberta project is about finding community with other queer people, but the work that I really am most passionate about is furthering that in terms of like queer POCs or queer Indigenous peoples, because our voices and stories are different.
People don't want us to be us. They kind of just want us to be like pushed to the side, but we need to be celebrated. Like it's honestly our time. It's been a long time coming.
It's so overdue.
Yes.
It is so overdue. What prompted you? I kind of have a guess, but what prompted you to make the big move to Ontario after have living in Calgary your whole life, right?
Well, I was kind of just like stuck in this rut of, you know, again, I was just only staying safe and dating and being around people who I was like, oh, I'm safe with, and I know how to interact with these beings. And then it wasn't until I met my now girlfriend, and she just totally like changed my whole viewpoint. And she was like, you know, you don't have to stay in Calgary. Like, what are you doing? And then I like months before that, I was going through like a really hard time with my then partner. Just I told him, I was like, I don't know if I'm coming into like this new era of like knowing myself, because I've just been playing it safe and I've just been trying to not be who I really was. I started like changing everything about me, my hair, my clothes, my values, how I thought, how I talked. And then I just looked at him and I was like, I don't think this is working. Like, I need to be able to go out and figure myself. And then I started, you know, posting on TikTok and everything. I found like this really big community of mixed beings, of Indigenous beings, two-spirited beings. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like these are my people. This is what I need to be doing. Like, I feel like such a connection to them, and I need to be in this. And then, yeah, I met my girlfriend, and she lives all the way out in Ottawa here. And so I was just like, take me with you.
Yeah, V-gay culture. Yeah. Obviously, talking about this, the first question that comes to my mind is like, there's this idea living in Alberta that if you are queer or 2S LGBTQ+, it's easier if you move somewhere else. How do you find it? Do you find that that's kind of this romanticized myth that we have here on the prairies, or is it in fact easier?
I wouldn't say like necessarily easier. There's just like, it feels like there's more community out here. Where in Alberta, honestly, like I didn't find a community of queer folk until like later on in my life. Yeah, it's hard being a queer person in Alberta. You know, a lot of people either think you're lying, or it's a phase you're trying to like show off, or they just don't believe you.
I was in Victoria for what's called the BC Museum Association's like annual conference that they have once a year. Each of the provinces has a museums association, and they typically do a one-year conference kind of thing where everybody gets together. And when I went, you're gonna love this, I met so many mixed kids, like more than I've met in my whole life in like 5 days. And I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, what do you mean? Like, you kind of look like me,
where
and
have
you get
you
it,
been?
and you literally, and they were like, why are you in Alberta? Like, come over here, kind of thing. It was so funny. But like, when you talk about those kind of like differences in how people treat you, whether it's as a queer person or as a POC in this province, like I was telling this other girl that I met, Natalie, if you're listening, I love you, I miss you, bestie. But she was half Chinese, half white, and she was telling me like just stories about her experiences and vice versa. And I told her about this like incident I'd had with a friend growing up, and I just finished with like, oh yeah, like, but it was a pretty microaggression, you know, like it wasn't that bad. This chick just looks at me and she's like, no, that's full on macro. Like, you put up with that and you have to deal with that, and you just get so used to it living here that you kind of just deal with it.
Oh yes, oh totally. Like,
yeah, you internalize it as this is just normal and everyday. And the only reason I started to question that for me, honestly, was moving away from like that small town where I grew up. And Lethbridge, again, you wouldn't think it's like super diverse, but I met so many other like POCs as friends for the first time when I moved for university. And then you have people to talk about it with, even if you're from different backgrounds and ethnicities. Yeah. So yeah, that was just kind of like the flicking of the switch for me, where I was like, wait a minute, this whole context of my life is starting to make sense here.
Oh, I love that.
How did you start to connect with your roots?
Oh man, yeah, it wasn't until like way later on in my life, like I'd say honestly about like 3-4 years ago, I started really reconnecting. Like, I kind of knew where I came from. Like, my mom, she's from the Philippines, and then my dad, he's from Saskatchewan. I didn't know those exact, like, I didn't know my dad was Cree. You know, I was always told I was Métis because mixed Indigenous person. You know, when people always assume that Métis people are just mixed Indigenous and not an actual nation of a specific group of people.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know that until this summer. I worked at a historical fort, and so many people would ask me that, if Métis just meant mixed. And I was like, well, yes and no.
I know, like, there's a lot of things that people just aren't educated on. And so when I learned for myself that I wasn't just Métis and that my dad was a Cree man from Saskatchewan, I was like, oh my God, like, I need to like study up on this, because I was not taught any of this in school. Like, they don't teach you any of that sort. And so I just started getting like all of my papers together and trying to like reach out to my bio parents, and I'm like, hey, please help me. Like, I just want to learn more about, you know, our culture and who we are. Like,
who you are.
Exactly. You know, because I just grew up thinking I was like a white girl, and just being a white person and not realizing that, hey, I have very specific cultures inside me. I'm still researching. I'm still in that reconnecting, researching phase, but like, I've met so many other reconnecting people, and like other Indigenous and Filipinos and Filipino beings that just want to help me to reconnect. And it's just like, it's really helping this process not feel so like I'm alone doing this.
Yes.
Which I'm like, God, oh, thank goodness. Like, because otherwise it's super daunting.
Bestie.
Right? You think you're like alone, and you're like, oh my gosh, this will never end. Like, nobody understands. And then someone reaches out and they're like, hey, I'm also reconnecting. Like, I got you, bro. Like, you ain't alone. You're like, oh, thank goodness.
Can you invite me next time? Because I feel like I need in on this. This is just like, I want to go.
We got a place here in Ottawa. Come over. Come through.
When I first came out, I felt like I was so just excited to celebrate my queer identity after years of like suppressing it or denying it, that I didn't really think critically about how I moved through queer spaces. And I didn't realize until, again, I was on this other process of stepping into my ethnic identity, that queer spaces can be really, especially in Alberta, so predominantly white. And so I find that it changes how it feels a lot when you suddenly realize that you don't fit in.
Yes, actually, like, I used to always bring it up when I'd go out with my friends, and I'd be like, are you looking around, guys? Like, I'm literally the only brown person in here right now. Like, what is going on? What is happening here? Even on TV, because even though, like, yes, we had like a couple queer movies coming out, they were all white queer movies. So where are all the queer BIPOC people? Like, do they exist? Is it just me?
Yeah. Queer stories as a whole are still not being told in the same like megaphone as every other story, especially in media. But just because that's true doesn't mean that we only focus on the white ones. That's not an excuse.
100%. Yes, we need more BIPOC queer representation.
Like we were saying just earlier, our experiences cannot be homogenized under this lens of like just gay or queer or whatever, because I feel like how we understand our identities are so different, particularly I'd guess from an Indigenous lens too.
Oh my gosh, yeah, 100%. It's like, you know, it's not just being queer, you also got to deal with being an Indigenous person. Well, me being Indigenous and Filipino.
And again, like, not to paint all of Alberta as like, you know, this is just it for the experience, but I think it says a lot if the two of us grew up here and we both experienced so much of this.
Meeting up with my bio dad, you know, I brought my girlfriend and he was so open. He was like, oh my gosh, like, welcome to the family, like, you're so welcome. And then he mentioned that my bio mom had messaged him and she was like, oh, so Haley's gay now? And just like really confused and like not wanting to like agree or accept that, you know, I'm bisexual, you know, and I'm dating a woman now. She was kind of very skeptical. She doesn't tell me that. She talks to my dad about that, you know, and then she'll just send me like the very occasional like church Bible Christian videos of like verses and stuff.
I think we have the same mom. I think we have the same mom.
Probably.
Yeah, I know exactly what videos you're talking about.
Yeah.
With the cringy script and the weird music and like the fuchsia background.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally. And you're like, what am I supposed to respond to this? Like,
I simply don't.
I don't either.
I say nothing.
I look at it. There's so many, and I'm like, there it is.
Yeah. I'm like, a healthy dose of ghosting. A healthy dose of ghosting. Every Filipino kid listening to that is gonna feel the exact same way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm trying not to cry. That's so funny.
We talked a little bit about going to Ontario and kind of just like the spur of the moment, everything fell into place, the right time to do it. Do you ever find, this is what I'm curious about, do you ever find that you miss Alberta?
I honestly, okay, I do actually miss Alberta. Like, I miss the flatness of it and like being able to see miles and miles away just the Rocky Mountains. And I'm like, oh, there they are. They're the little hills. And like, just, I don't know. And I finally was getting comfortable where everything was. I just like knew, because I grew up there basically my whole life. I just knew where everything was.
Yeah. And
just like being safe and comfortable. And then having to like leave all that and go to a new place where I have no idea where I'm going, anybody around here, like it was scary. And I do miss Alberta, especially because like my mom, like my adoptive mom still lives there, and most of my like adoptive family are all in BC, and so like I can't see them as easily as I could anymore. And like I was just starting to get that relationship back with them. And so I miss Alberta mostly for like the people there and for like the nature. I love the prairies. I'm a big prairie girl, not gonna lie. But like there is like a little part of me where I'm like, man, I miss those flat plains of just cows. Like I miss them.
Of cows.
You know what I mean? Like it's just endless amounts
yes,
of just
I know
cows.
what you mean. That is ridiculous. And like I actually wrote down, because I thought it was really funny, that the first thing you said before this like speech about what we missed about Alberta, the first thing you said was, I miss how flat it was.
People
I was like,
who
okay,
are not from
slay.
the prairies don't understand like
they don't get it,
right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's just flat. That's so boring. And I'm like, but it's like comforting.
No, you see,
you can see everything that's going on.
Yeah. I've realized sometimes, like when I go back and listen to the interviews that I've done, I'm kind of operating under the assumption that people understand like the terms that I'm using, and often that might not be the case. So if you wouldn't mind, would you maybe give like maybe a few words about what two-spirit means to you and how you understand that?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So two-spirit is essentially, it's different in every tribe essentially. Like, but where it came from was from, I believe it was the Gay Lesbian Alliance in Winnipeg. And it was kind of like a collective of people coming together being like, so white people need to know like they keep looking at us and they don't understand indigenous like queer beings, and we need to try to find a word for them to understand. And it took like days of ceremonies and discussions, and then they came to the word two-spirit, which essentially means having masculine and feminine spirit. But like everyone has a different meaning to it. But for me personally, I take it as me having and being both masculine and feminine. And it's like, it's not just like it's not like people try to say it's the same as being like a queer gender, or like what's another word for it, just like trying to take that term away from us and try to mix it into white terms. And it's like, no, this isn't a white person term. This is two-spirit. This is an indigenous term.
Yeah.
It is for indigenous people, and it's for indigenous queers, and it's completely different from like being non-binary. And 100% I always try and say to people that, like, you know, how I look at it being like queer and two-spirit is different from everybody else. And so, you know, you can hear what I'm saying, but it can mean something totally different to you. And I'm not trying to like speak out and say, this is what it means to everybody. No, this is just what it means to me and how I feel about it.
I just feel like I've been smiling this whole interview because I resonate with so much that you say, and you probably hear this all the time, but you genuinely have such beautiful energy as a person. Like, I can feel it through the screen, and I think you're gonna do some powerful things.
Thank you so much.
It's been so great to chat with you, Haley, and we're going to have a couple minutes here to give the opportunity for you to share some of the cool stuff that you're doing, any social media that you want people to know about if they want to stay and follow along with all the great work that you're doing. This time is yours.
Oh, frick yeah. Okay. Well, I've just started recently getting into acting. You know, I'm trying to get on TV and movies. That's literally been
I'm so excited.
My life goal. I've always loved the theater. I've always loved drama. And just being able to actually like do auditions and to be acting, even if they're just like little commercials here and there, it's still something. And I'm just like, I can't believe it. I did a fashion show for Toronto Fashion Arts. I walked for Leslie Hampton. We love Leslie Hampton here.
Yes, you did.
Opened the show. It was my first time.
Cool.
Oh my God. It was wild. It was so wild. But yeah, if like y'all want to check up on what I'm doing and keep up with the process of my acting, I have an Instagram, which is og.robinson10. My TikTok is the same except without the 10. And then I'm also getting into streaming again for gamers. So that's also OG Robinson 10.
I love it. I love it. And like, I'm not here to peer pressure anybody, but if you don't go follow Haley, I may riot.
I will find you. Just kidding.